All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee and Craps with John from Pro Craps here on Casino Gaming TV. A couple new things to announce, I guess. One is going to be, you'll notice the camera is going to act a little bit janky today. Got the new computer in, which is good, so we should be able to start streaming again in 4K, which is awesome. And that also means I can do videos, like actual filmed videos from my table, which also is awesome. But the camera that I got to do this with, the newer camera, remember the one that didn't work before? I plugged it back in again, so it works fine. There shouldn't be much lag at all, hopefully none. But I haven't dialed the settings in for it yet. I haven't had time to, so it's going to be doing the zoom weird focusing thing. We'll get past that. I'm not that worried about it for today. We'll fix it moving ahead. So anyway, good morning, welcome. What an interesting week we had last week. Huh? All sorts of things to talk about today regarding what happened last week, but yeah, let's get to it here. I need to restart the presentation. Hold on a second. Let me get back to the beginning here. There we go. All right, let's jump in and kind of recap the week. I got a couple questions to ask you. So in chat, I'm going to ask you in chat to weigh in on a couple things if you would. Okay, so let's go to it here. Let's go to this here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened. Not that. What is going on? Why is that? Why did that change? Hold on. That should be here. There we go. As far as the paycheck last week, we're $62 up. We're 3-1 as of Thursday. Now, as of Friday, what happened on Friday was this. Friday was a disaster. In all sorts of ways, Friday was a disaster. Friday was a disaster because, number one, while I was rolling it out, I made a dealing mistake. I actually made two big, hold on, this light. I made two big dealing mistakes. Okay, number one was, I made a bunch of mistakes. So the first mistake I made was this. I didn't count my rack right. There was a point in time where I said, oh, we're almost at paycheck. We should stop here, right? We were like, I think at 108 or 103, I thought in the rack. At that point in time, we were actually up 200 because I didn't pay myself on something, on a 10 that I should have got paid on. And I mispaid another one. I actually went back and watched it. I mispaid myself less 25 than I should have been, and I didn't get paid on the 10, which would have been $50. I would have been at $200 in profit instead of 103. I would have been at about, I think it was like 195 or something like that. I would have stopped right there, right? That would have been paycheck done, celebrate, money in the bank. Show would have been over, most likely. As it was, I miscounted the rack, and I kept playing, trying to chase that extra 50 or $60. And then it went south on us, right? In a normal circumstance, I would have marked the paycheck, done the celebration, made the deposit, and then said, hey, let's play bonus time just for fun and not count it. That loss that I had at the end would have been bonus time, and who gives a crap? Additionally, in the bonus time, I never played it the same way. We kept farting around, and I was like arguing with people in the chat, and it was like, let's try this, let's try that. And we were just kind of like, hey, let me show you what it looks like to bet this way. Let me try this. And I kept changing the scheme and never played the actual strategy. I just played it like willy-nilly to try stuff out. So that second session, even though I got my ass kicked, I got my ass kicked because I didn't play it according to the strategy, right? So now granted, the dice didn't work for me, right? I would have probably lost anyway in that second session. So my question to you is, what do I do? Like, I didn't log anything. I left it alone. I thought we'd talk about it today. And I want to get a real sense from y'all. What ought I do here? I talked to a couple of people over chat, and they're like, well, what you should do is log the initial session as a win, log the second session as a loss. And while I agree, in theory, the second session was not played legit the way we were playing it, right? We kind of changed up all the strategies in there. I almost want to throw the whole freaking day away and just pretend like it never happened because it was such a bad day all the way around in terms of like my attitude. You know, I didn't type any of the rolls into roll tracker. It was just one of those days, right? So yeah, Friday was not a 6, 7, 8 at all. Friday was just like a mess, right? And I don't know what to do. Like I said, I'm kind of like, I'm in this, I'm going to change the size of these things are really weird. I'm going to change the size, I don't know. I just feel like Friday was just a mess. I feel like I want to just kind of pretend like it never happened and start over again. So I don't know what to do. I think the first part of it, Mark, California and Rob, the first part of it was a paycheck. I played that part legit. I played the first like 10 rolls perfect, won a paycheck, and then I went off the rails. And I mean completely off the rails. So I don't want to cheat the stats and say, well, I won, and then we fucked it up, right? I don't want to do that. I also don't want to hide from the fact that we lost our rear ends in the second half, right? Because it was a terrible set of rolls, and it does show the strategy going way downhill if you played it that way, but we didn't play it that way. So I don't know. Yeah, I know, Jen, you tried really hard, but I was so distracted all day. Like it was like, man, Friday was it was a bad day. Friday was a bad day. It was bad all the way around, right? We had all the drama from the group. I've like lingering drama from other things that have been going on. It was one of those just forgettable sessions. Let's put it that way, right? So I don't know what to do. I keep talking about it. Maybe put in front of your chat, just put a PC in front of it so I know what you want me to do. And then as a group, we can kind of make a decision on what we think we should do. I got a couple of people saying market a paycheck. Jen saying make it a mulligan. Jen says I gotta have a roll tracker. I had the roll tracker back. I put the roll tracker in over the weekend. So today's paycheck, you'll have a roll tracker. So you didn't cause the drama, Joe. We all caused the drama. So the drama last week, by the way, let's actually address the drama because I think it's good. By the way, before I do that, the 6, 7, 8's not bad, by the way. We had, if you count the first part of Friday, which we should count that at the very least was played right as a win, that's 4-1. And the 1 was a horrendous run. And even then, I didn't take a full paycheck loss. We took a partial paycheck loss. It's a strong way to play if it works out, right? If you're catching a halfway okay rhythm, it's a strong way to play. It's when you start chasing it, and we started chasing it on Friday in the end. That's when things go south. And I think when I do the Monday morning quarterback today, you're going to see what I mean by this. It's going to showcase itself in the review of Friday Night Fights here in a minute. So let's chat. Let's go on here. A couple of things to announce here in the come out roll for us. I don't know why my chats aren't going away automatically. Hold on, cancel that. But again, when I change the computer, my settings aren't all the same, so I have to fix some stuff. Friday Night Fights. So Sith Lord SB Corey is the new champ. He beat Craig. It was an interesting match. I'm going to do a little bit of a breakdown of mostly Craig's rolls because Craig did the more interesting stuff in the match. And we're going to break down a little bit about what happened and how Corey won and not so much how Craig lost. I don't think Craig lost it. I think Corey got really, really lucky. A couple of really perfect times, right? But it was an interesting thing. So either way, Corey takes the championship. Eddie E-Hydro 9's coming up next on this Friday. And that'll be good. We're going to start a new thing. I saw that we had a bunch of new people signed up. Some first-timers are in the list. I'm super excited about that. That's going to be great. So Friday Night Fights back on this week. If you haven't seen it yet, I was a little delayed in watching Ed Robinson's Tales from the Table yesterday. I watched it late last night. We just had stuff going on yesterday, so I didn't get the chance to watch it. My daughter, you may or may not know, is leaving for college on Wednesday. So, by the way, there's no shows on Wednesday. Both shows will be dark. We're leaving here at 7 in the morning. I'm driving her 5 hours to school, loading the dorm room up, and then driving back at night. So it's going to be no shows on Wednesday for us. And that's a lot of drama here in the house, too. So it's a lot going on here for that. So I'm distracted on like 17 different levels here. But yeah, Tales with Hibble was fantastic this week. And, you know, Ed does a really good job of just kind of asking a question and letting the guests tell their stories. You know what I mean? And what strikes me about all this, you know, is you've got Heavy yesterday or last night talking about Stanford Wong and John Patrick and the professor and all the Soft Touch or whatever her name is, right? All the people that they played with, right? They gave seminars with, and like kind of that group of people that went through the craps, you know, seminar circuit and all that stuff, right? They played together. The one story he told her about, you know, the one lady, I think her name was Soft Touch, how, you know, they could do whatever they wanted with the dice. They could short roll it, whatever they wanted to, because everybody was checking her out because she was so hot, right? Which I think is a funny story. Those stories you can't replace. Like those are the things like, you know, the old coots, whatever. And I lived in some of that world, but I was never part of that group at all, right? I have stories, but not like that group. I look at them and I hear Ed and I hear the stories, and I'm so glad Ed's doing this because a lot of these guys are going to age out, right? Some of them, John Patrick's 93 years old now, right? He's not going to be able to tell stories much longer. It's really cool to hear their tales from the table. I want you all to think about this, right? We are that same thing now. Like we're not like changing craps history like they did, but when we have our meetups, like the Chicago meetup that's coming up with Joe and Arnell and Evelyn's running that thing and Corey's going to be there and a bunch of others in Chicago, the DiceCon stories that we've got, my Seattle meetup that's coming up, the Craps for the Cure stuff. In 20 years, somebody not named Ed Robinson will do a series called Tales from the Table or something like it, and they're going to be talking about all you all and the crazy crap that we did, right? The drama that we had here. And they're going to use all of our nicknames. Like now we're talking, he's giving all these nicknames out. Like, who are these people? You know, and Heavy's giving you their actual names. You know, it's John, not, you know, whatever. We're going to be like, you know, blah, 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 blah. You probably know him as Duracell. But let me tell you something. This guy, and we're going to be able to tell these stories about ourselves at the tables. I think it's going to be really cool. Like, I just kind of equate like where we are now and some of the characters that we've got, you know, playing together, and in 20 years telling those stories. We're writing our own little book here. I think it's kind of cool. When I watch Ed, I'm like, that's pretty awesome. You know, I love hearing the old stories. I could listen to that crap all day long. Like, I might put the one from last week back on again because I've got a long dog walk ahead of me today and I need something to listen to. Anyway, if you're not watching it, you got to watch it. Must see TV there. And I will address the drama. So really quick, I don't want to go deep into it, but I call this like trends and sniping and all that stuff. I had this little rant last week about trends, right? And I'm not going to get into the whole thing where I really wanted to dig into a definition and apply words properly. Like I don't want to use the word trending anymore, trend betting anymore, because I don't think it's a thing. And I wanted to apply definitions around it. Well, it got really stupid, right? People are now they're, you know, whatever, they're trolling me in the chats and they're trying to, you know, whatever. Every time I bring out anything, it's trend, which is childish and stupid. And I called it out. And then I went into a longer diatribe, which, you know, whatever. I think it was more clear, but it was kind of like, what are you reacting for? And then Friday, of course, I had the big reaction in chat with a couple of people who, you know, again, everybody wants to be right. It's not about being right. It's about using the right words. And that's what that was all about. Well, amidst all that, you know, you've got this miniature, I don't even want to call it a feud, just kind of a disagreement of purpose between a few of us. And I don't have to, you know, hide names. You know that Jeff and Alfredo have a little thing going on. A lot of us have been like, Alfredo, come on, we're rolling the eyes, you know, a lot. And, you know, Joe got tired of it and said, fuck, you guys just stop it already on Friday, which was great. I mean, we, behind the scenes, we're all, you know, kind of, you know, doing the same thing. We're sniping, and sniping sucks. Sniping at each other sucks. The digs hurt, and warranted or not, the digs hurt. And what it ends up doing is taking a community that I think we've worked really hard to build. All of us have worked hard to build a community. And if you think about what we built, you've got, and I was telling Joe, I talked to everybody on the phone. I talked to Joe and Jeff and Alfredo and a couple others on the phone about this thing. And I want to equate this in terms that we can all kind of get. You've got like the initial like Craps Nation group. Well, before that you got Heavy's group, but I'm saying on YouTube land. You got the Craps Nation group that started, and it fractured a little bit. There were some egos involved, and you've got, you know, El Toro and Dak, Press 36 Full Press, and the other groups, and David, and all the people, right? And whatever happened. I wasn't part of it, and it kind of splintered a little bit. It's still a strong group, but it kind of splintered for a while there. And it became a bunch of individual YouTube channels. There's still a main group, but it's not like it was, right? Jeremy's got his group. Of course, CEG's got a whole group, but they're not just craps. They're a whole thing. And then you kind of got us. We kind of sprung up out of nowhere, and we just started doing our thing live every day. And we've got this really killer community, I think. And we're doing kind of the same thing that Craps Nation did, where we're kind of factioning off, and we're picking who our favorite, and it's fine, have your favorites, but we're kind of picking sides on, and we're doing things not cohesively enough. And Joe said, I can't take it anymore. You guys are all saying this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy. You're not saying any names, and you're not talking behind the scenes, and he's probably right about that, right? Oh, I forgot the Hawaii crap shooters. The Hawaiians have their own whole thing going on, right? But we're all part of the same, like, timeline, right? And the same friend group, I think, as all of us. So Joe wants us to stop. I think he's a smart play to put out the thing. And again, you don't have to agree with anything that Joe or anybody else said. It doesn't matter. What does matter, and I say this all the time, is how humans do the human thing, right? And we didn't do a very good job recently of doing that. So I called everybody up and we talked through it separately, and I think what we're going to do is have a separate behind the scenes little chat. We'll get together, do like a Zoom call or something and talk through it a little bit. We'll actually talk through it like, all the things. And I hope that the end of this thing turns into what I would hope for months ago, right? Which is to take CGTV from here, which is just mainly me talking about craps and a little bit of Chris and a little bit of Jeff sprinkled in here, and have it be all of us talking about all the things. I really want to get Jack Ace in for the roulette. I really want to get Ken in for the generalized gambling stuff. I really want to get dealers back, and I want all of us craps folks to be doing the same things. I think there's a world here where the daily crapsies that we're doing, instead of being competitive crapsies with each other, can be cohesive crapsies for all of you. And at the end of the day, we want to have, I don't care if we're all going at the same time in Crapsy. Crapsy's got a new feature where we can all go at the same time, and you can switch in Crapsy between people going live at the same time. That's the dream. Like, to me, that's the best thing. We've been trying to avoid time conflicts all this time, which you don't know, but trust me, the scheduling behind the scenes is really hard. Who's going live when? Who's going to go long? Who started early? It's a pain in the ass. With Crapsy about to be allowing us to look at the Crapsy screen and say, oh, look, Jeff's live and Alfredo's live and John's live. And I can jump into John's Crapsy and play with John until John starts shooting like crap. And then I can just switch over to Alfredo's because he's live too. And Crapsy shows you the YouTube video. That's going to be this dynamic, like, live casino experience that we've always wanted. Right? And it takes all of us to kind of get here. So I think that's what's going to happen. We're all going to get together. We're all going to work it out, or not. We may not work it out, but we're going to try to work it out. We're going to try and get more marching on the same pathway. It is all about everybody. It's not about ego here, there, or over there. It's about making the right group, or this group, be cohesive. You don't have to agree to be on the same team, right? There's a lot of teams that don't have people that like each other, right? You don't have to be huggies and kissies. But we do have to play as a unit, I think. And that's what Joe is getting at. And I think that's what I'm getting at. I think that's what we're going to do. So wish us luck. We're gonna hammer that out. I think that the trend conversation put me in a bad space last week, and I apologize for that. I think the sniping back and forth put all of us in a bad space. Jointly, we probably all apologize for that. And I think Joe said, hey, wake up, idiots. Let's fix this, whatever this is. And we're gonna do it. So there it is. All right, now let's get into some other stuff here. What's happening? Oh, you know what? Is that all I got? That is all I got. Okay, Monday morning quarterback. Okay, I'm gonna get myself off the camera. We're gonna change screens here, and I'm gonna go and show you some stuff. This is what I discovered. This is a lot of information on screen, so let's bear with me here. I'm gonna try and walk you through. Actually, let me go back to here real quick. Let me go back here before I do that. Let me lower this. I want to talk about this, and Craig, this is going to sound like I'm beating you up, but I'm not. Okay, I really want to break down what I saw and what I felt was going on. Let's talk about the hops. Craig did a ton of hops, okay, in the Friday night fight. Here's the result of the hops. Okay, in round one, I'm with my glasses. I got to be able to see this. He hopped the Reds 6 times for $270 and never won it. In round one. Round two, we got one. In round one, you never won the hopping Reds. On the box, you hopped the box numbers 5 times for a total outlay of $115. We did hit a hard 8 at one point for $150. Okay, and your net on that, I think I got that wrong. Your net, you had $115 out there. You won $150. Your net was actually minus $35. There was a little bit more of a bleed there than that. I should have added that wrong. Your net's a little bit less than that because you bet $115, you won the $150. Your net is $35, not one. That should be negative $35. On the horn in the first round, you hopped the horn 17 out of 20 rolls for a total of $449. A couple of those weird ones at the end. You had like a $12 hop and a 17. There were some weird numbers in there at the end. 17 times for $449. Okay, you hit 7 of them because I had so many horn numbers. It was crazy. In 20 rolls, I had, I think, 7 or 8 horn numbers, which is way out of balance, right? Variant, imagine that. You hit 7 of them for $435 in gross wins. However, when you bet the horn for 20 and you win 75, you're losing 15, so your net is only 60, right? That's kind of how that works out. So you bled away $95 from the 435. all right? Which means you had 310 in raw wins, minus $139 net, okay? A little over 275 is my calculation of what we lost on the hops. That first round, you lost by exactly $200. I think the hops ended up being the thing in the first round that although you got a couple of nice ones in there, and Corey said at the end, oh my God, those hops, I was so scared of the hops. What the hops did, I think, was make Corey play differently. Like you kept hopping, and I kept rolling threes. You put Corey in a position to bet maybe where he wouldn't have wanted to bet. And I'll show you some of Corey's bets here in a second on what he did in round one in response to all the hopping that you did. So you put him in a weird spot to make different bets, but over the course of that whole first round, your hops cost you, I think I got this wrong on that second one, about 275 to 300 and change in total losses on the hops. So they ended up not being the greatest play. And if we look at round two, the same thing happens, right? Round two, you did have the win. You hopped the Reds for $30 and you won it. Boom. It was like you 10, we hit it. Pff, beautiful. The box, you hopped twice for $65, no wins. And the horn hopped it 7 times for $133 in total bets. You hit it one time. The second round we hit one time, so it was $75 gross win, but you bled out 20 on that win, right? So $55 net win, $78 net loss on the horn hops for a net loss of $13. The second round, the loss was more than $13, so the hops didn't kill you in the second round. Although that money being out there, the 30, the 65, and the 133, that's about $200. If it was not bet on hops and bet someplace else, that number, instead of being minus 13, would have been either $200 in your rack or additional monies bet and placed elsewhere, right? So the hopping, I think, took money away from other bets and in both cases ended up as a net negative, which is a shame. Although it does push your opponent everywhere they don't want to be, right? You're making them have to adjust because when you're hopping all the time like that, there's always the back of your mind on your opponent going, oh my God, if he hits that freaking hard 8. When you hop the hard 8, and I think you hopped the hard 8, and or somebody did, you won in the first round. When you hop the hard 8 for $10 and you win it, Corey went, oh shit, like that was a big one, right? That was a big, like, uh-oh. And that's always in the back of your mind as the other player. Corey didn't really take the bait and try and hop with you. When you played, I think it was Nemo or maybe it was Vince, they hopped with you but opposite, right? And it was like this weird hop battle that never, and that in that case it doesn't matter because everybody's doing the same thing. In this case, because you're flying solo in there, I think the net negative of the hop bets hurt you financially, but I also think it put Corey in a weird spot. So there's the hop progression. Your first round, the don't come really carried the water for you. And where I noticed this big time was this. You had 4 wins in the DC, like while it was coming out. And all the wins, I think 2 of the wins were, or all 4 of them were at $50. You had, sometimes you were $50 in DC, sometimes you were 25. You had $50 in a DC, hopping the horn, right? And 3 or 4 of those times, I rolled a 3 or a whatever, 3 or a 2 or whatever it was, where you won the DC and the horn. Huge wins. Those were like, that really carried water. That increased the power of those hops big time. And Corey was like, oh God, like that happened to him like 3 times. Boom, boom, like almost in a row, I think, right? You did get picked in the don't twice by the 11, once by the 7, once by the 11. Both were at your $25 level. So you dodged the $50 bullet, which was really, really kind of lucky there. I picked you off once on the 5, but you had 6 natural wins, right? You got the first round, you got a DC set, 7 out. The second round, you had 2 DC sets, 7 out. Or the second shooter, rather. And the third one that came back cleanly. So your DC game in this particular match crushed it, plus 275. And you made a great regression, right? That one regression where you went from 110, you got a hit, you went to 220 on the inside. Remember this? And then you got the next hit, boom, down to 66. Huge. That was a huge regression. And I think I 7'd out, or the round ended almost 2 or 3 rolls later. Or maybe we never got another hit. We'll look at the chart here. That was great, right? That plan was awesome. And it worked out with the dice. The dice played for you perfectly, where you got the DC wins in the DC. They got set. We 7'd out just the right time before they got picked. That was your money play right there. That was really the difference. And I think for a while there, you were ahead of Corey by quite a bit because your DC play. And again, in the DC with the horns hitting, that compound win was nice, really nice. What we didn't see in those rounds, though, were any pressings. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. On the Corey side, I don't have a lot to say here because Corey's bets, you'll see in a minute, were very regular, right? His DP did nothing for him. He had $100 DP, and I picked it, or won twice, right? On the first round, it won twice. But both times that it won, he had 135 across and never got a hit. I think the first time he got 0 hits, the second time he got 1 hit on the 135. Ends up being in that negative, right? This is 6, 7, 8 play. So the first, his DP with the 135 across ends up being a 6, 7, 8, like I would do in the garage, but no hits. Right? So it ends up being either a tie or a net loss, which kind of sucks. The box for Corey largely did nada. When I show you the spray chart, you'll be like, oh my God, like he got nothing out of the box. Like there was so few box hits, and the box hits that he did get were eaten up by the field or by the hops or by the hardway. So, but he did have 2 great hardway hits, and the secret sauce was the miracles. We'll look at the miracle rolls at the end, but if you haven't seen the show, Corey was behind in both rounds. And on the very last roll in both rounds, I threw the exact thing. I didn't throw. I rolled with the bubble thing. The exact thing that the only way Corey could have won was if I rolled this or that, and I rolled this and that. That's the only reason why he won. It was insane. He hung around, and Craig was like, doing his thing and hopping, and Corey's trying to, chase the whatever. And at the very end, like, bam, miracle. Like, that's what happened. Right? It was just kind of a crazy situation. Let's look at the numbers here. Let's see if I go there and here, you should now see it. Okay, so let's look at this, like, down the chart here, and you can see kind of what I'm talking about. So Craig, we come out here, and we roll a 10 hard coming out, and on that first roll, you hop the reds and you had the horn hop. So you come out on the very first roll down 175, right? $25 DC and 110 inside. I pop a 7 right away, and you're like, boom, you're down 135. The first 2 rolls, you're getting crushed, and whoop, down in the rack, right? And then we start the hop brigade, and look what happens here, right? We have a 9, right? We have hop in the reds, hop in the box, all of it goes down, right? And I'm like, oh boy, it's 3 in a row. Then we go to the DC. Right, I roll a 3 in the DC. He's got the reds hopped and he's got the horn hopped. Right, so you take money out of that. Right, you have hops everywhere. You have hop in everything. You had the 639 hop for some reason, the $20 horn, the $30 on the reds, and you end up winning because the DC and the horn win. Right, that DC doesn't go anywhere. Then you're still in the DC. It gets set to the 5. Right, we hop, end up going down a little bit. Right, because we have all the loss in here, right? There's $30, $55 in loss, but that gets set. The net result here is you have a $50 DC get set, but you lost 55 on the roll. So in that transaction right here, I look at this and go, hey, look, we're down $5, right? You won 50 here, but you're down 5 on the very next roll because all the stuff cost you $5 to get the $50 DC set, which is a bummer. Later on, you have the comeback, which gets picked, and the 7 out, right? Which, boop, there you go. You're getting paid on that DC, right? Which is great. You have the DC here and DC here. You're getting paid coming out, which is awesome, right? And then we have, again, this is the regression. You have a don't pass. That gets set. But again, you're hopping on the come out, right? On the box and the horn. You had this $80 hop and the $25 don't pass. So you end up losing coming out. The hard way hop, I think that something paid in here. I forget what it was that paid. You're only down $30. I'm not sure why I calculated that wrong. You lost the hop. The 6 hard you hadn't hopped, but you hopped the easies. This should be minus 80, not minus 30. Then we have the big one, right? Then you hit that hard 8 that was hop. You hopped the hard ways in the box, and we had the 110 inside, so you hit both numbers. You bump me to 220. There's a big win. And then there's the big regression. That puts a bunch of money in your rack. But this whole transaction in here puts so much money in your rack. And then you're still hopping, and Corey's going, oh, my God, what am I going to do? Look at this. 2 threes in a row with money on the DC. Beautiful, right? That was like bam, bam. You're like way, way up at this point. This is where you took the lead. That was a perfect sequence for you, right? And then again, you're getting DC bets set, but they never get hurt because we end the roll. This is the tournament play difference, right? These DC bets can get up there, and at the end of the game, we don't 7 out. You get them back in your rack, so they're not going to sit up there and fester. You did lose the 1-5, and that's it. Then there's the miracle, right? You go to the horn for $37. I did roll the 11, but you had the hopping 6s and you had the hopping reds. The horn wins, but your net not that much, right? This one and this one bled out what you won on here, right? The red hop and the box hop bled out what you won on that big 11, which is a bummer. And that's what happened in round 1. Round 1 for Corey, look at this. It's so different. He has a $100 DP, which PSO, right, which is great, but he had 135 across, gets picked. $100 DP again, right? And we get 25 4 and 10. I roll a 3, he gets nothing. He goes to 135 across. I roll a 5, we get a hit. I roll a 6, we get a hit, but he's in the field. So both those wins get chewed up by the field, essentially, right? Then we roll a 3, you get nothing out of that. We 7 out. So your $100 DP gets paid, but you have 135 across and a field bet, and you're net negative 55 in that whole set of rolls. You're minus $55, right? So your DPs trying to play some 6, 7, 8 here got whacked for 35 and 55, and in the first 8 rolls, you're down. What is that, like $90 or something? Where Craig in those first 8 rolls here is down a little more, right? He got the 110 in here, he got a little bit of hit in here, but you're actually a little bit up coming into this next sequence here. And again, same thing, right? We set a point, but you're off. You go inside, or you go 5 and 8, 5 and 8, 5 and 8, 5 and 8 with the hard ways. Nothing happens, right? The Yo 11 gets you in the field a little bit. The hard 8 was a nice little hit. The 9 gets you nothing because you're on the 8 and 5. The 3 gets you nothing, essentially the little tiny field win. And then we hit the point, which takes your $100 DP away, so you're minus 145 again. The DP gets crushed, and then the same thing happens down here. We set a point of 5, the DP, and again we lose the DP when the 5 gets hit. And here again, 3, 3, 8. You're on the 4 and 10, 4 and 10, 4 and 10. No, all these box numbers, like almost no activity. It was. I'm watching going, man, we're just never paying this poor guy, right? And then last roll, you dump it on you rail dump on the pass line, and Dylan and I roll an 11, and there's the magic, right? There's the miracle win. That 330 win outpaces the $78 net win on the last roll, which gets you up, right? These earlier big losses and the hop bleeds that we had throughout that I talked about in the other slide, that allowed this win. Again, it's a complete miracle roll, but it allowed that to be enough to win, where I think, Craig, you could have been so far ahead that this may not have mattered. Now, if you weren't hopping, I wonder if Corey bets differently. But you'll notice he's completely out of the hops except for one roll. He doesn't lay a thing the entire time. No lays, no hops the whole way through. He's playing the box, and the box did nothing. Literally nothing for Corey. The last roll did it. And then, of course, round 2, you had the same story, right? Corey comes out with a pass line bet, a come bet that pays, 6 goes to the come. We hit the point of 5, right, which is great. And then again, we're in here, and it's $60 6 and 8, 6 and 8, 6 and 8, which I never hit once, right? All those box bets did 0. Literally sitting there doing nothing. He moves, for some reason, Corey moves from the hard ways. He moves the hard ways to the 10 and moves his bets to the 10. He goes $25 4 and 10, 66 and 8. And then $10 on the hard 8 and on the 10, and I whack a hard 10. Again, miracle win at the end that changes the whole complexion of the game. Craig in that last round, again, hopping almost every roll, right? The DC bets here, again, you set it. You set the DP, which gets beat here. You set a DC, you set a DC, and the 7 pays them both. So right here, again, the DC bets paid off really good. You had this DC's hopping red. Oh yeah, the hopping reds here. That was a big win. The 240 hopping red. That was a game changer. Middle of the game when we had the hopping red plus the hard way, that was a big win because you won the hopping reds plus the DCs. Huge win. That puts Corey behind the 8 ball. This is the one that made Corey go bigger on the inside, and then the very end switch to the hard 10. And once again, you're on the 6 and 8, and you're getting nothing on the 6 and 8. I roll a 10 hard, and where are you at? You're hopping everything else, and you're hopping the horn. And so you end up losing $50 where Corey won whatever he won, the 120. And that's a $175 swing right there. And the second round was won by, I think, $110 or something like that. So that swing at the very end, again, the miracle rolls at the end are what did it. But that was a heck of a fun game to watch. I had fun dealing that thing out. And the whole time I'm going, here's this perfect storm of like, hopping the horns, hitting the horns. Is that gonna work out in the end? Like, what's really going to be the result of that? Is that going to play out well enough? So it was cool to watch. And my suspicion was too much hopping leads to too much bleed. I think it did. I think in this case the hopping bled out enough to have won the first round for sure. The second round it didn't matter, but the first round definitely bled you out. And I do think though, like I said, the flip side of that, bleeding you out, is that it puts your opponent where they got to deal with it. They got to deal with what if one of those hops wins. And Corey's he's in here going abacus math the whole time, right? He's going, all right, well, I got 135 inside. I got a DP out there. If the 7 comes, I'm going to lose $35. If one of Craig's hops wins right now, he's going to be 80 and down, and I'm still stuck here. What am I going to do? Right, and I think that's where Corey was. You put him in a spot where he had to do all this crazy thinking the whole time, which is, again, it's the difference between tournament play and real play, right? In real game, you never do that because you're not playing against somebody. But now you're pushing him in a place he doesn't want to be, which I found, to me, the most fascinating part of the whole thing. So that's my over-the-shoulder kind of breakdown of it. And again, I think, Corey got nothing out of those DPs, unfortunately, and nothing out of the box, especially in round 2, where on a variant without all those horn numbers, if a couple of more box numbers hit, you're talking a whole different game, right? There's less hop wins, there's more box wins, and everybody's playing it probably a little bit differently, but the way that it was. I also think, if you're going to hop stuff, let me go back over here. Let me go back to the screen again. This sequence in here, Craig, too, I thought was interesting. The back-to-back threes. Now, I don't always recommend parlaying, right? But a press might have been interesting here, right? If you would have pressed all the wins, you had win, 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 win. In here, a press of your horn would have been obviously a double-sized win that would have completely covered one of the earlier losses, right? So if you pressed in here, yeah, it bleeds a little higher up top, but that really could have changed the game on the repeaters that we had. And I know some guys recommend a hop progression where you hit a hop and you press once, press twice, right, and progress into it. There was this really interesting sequence of, every other whatever one was a horn. Not that you can depend on that, but if you had been progress betting in there, that would have been a super interesting play. Anyway, I thought I would call that out because it is interesting when you see kind of how the roles played out there. So that's my analysis. I don't know that I'm right or wrong about any of it. What I saw, and when I see that number of hops, you have to wonder what the bleed is. And so I found out what the bleed was, and it ended up being a thing. And you're right, Craig says it perfect. That's what makes it fun, like putting them on the ropes kind of thing, right? It's the old rope-a-dope. Like, I'm going to make you do things you don't want to do. And I think that was a big part of it. And I think we all saw Corey thinking the whole time, like, what the hell am I going to do, And it did take, the mid-mo yo at the end of that thing in the end of first round was like a holy crap moment, wasn't it? Like, it was like, what? And then we had the other one at the end of the round 2, right, where we had the hard 10 come up. And it was like the only way to do it is how it happened. It was a fascinating match. And again, I like to watch the brains work, and it was really, really pretty cool. So Dustin says, stop moving my hands so much. And moving my hands, is that making the thing refocus? Is it when I do this, is that what happens? Is it refocus, or is it just me? I'm Italian, man. I talk with my hands. I can't help it. I'm also zoomed way out on this camera. I gotta fix the zoom level so it's just, you know, better framing. First day with the new PC, right? First day with the new the whole new setup. So there it is. There it is. What else is going on here? I'm gonna look at the questions and answers and that kind of stuff. Let's see. Any news? No, Jen. So here's, yeah, let's go over here a couple of things. I need my glasses. I'm sorry. Let's see. If it's not in the tracker, it didn't happen. That's pretty funny. Yeah, right. And AZ says what my other friends did. Take the loss, right? The only reason why I don't want to take the loss, not for the statistics, is because I didn't play it the way I didn't play the strategy, right? I was rolling dice and trying crap out. That's the only reason why I feel like the loss is a weird loss, but you're right. Let's see. Couldn't decide if my across was still a 6, 7, 8. It really wasn't. Like I said, hey, let's try this. Remember I said, let's try it this way. Let's try it that way. And I was doing the DP, and I wasn't progressing the DP wins, and I wasn't changing the levels up top. It was just a mess. I wish Friday never happened for lots of reasons. Jen wants to know if there is news on funeral services. No, I did talk to Crystal yesterday a little bit. I just wrote her a text and I said, you know, you're in all of our thoughts. And I'm sorry, I gotta make your thing a little smaller there. You're in our thoughts. We're thinking about you guys. I don't want to overstep. Hope you're doing okay. And she, of course, said it's been horrible. Layla can't understand it. Layla's having a rough time. I didn't want to ask anything else. I figure when it's important enough to tell me, she'll tell me. The lines of communication are still open. Hopefully, she'll just get to us when she does. I don't know yet, Jen. So the answer is I don't have any idea. I know that with my dad, Chiro is going to be cremated. I know that. And my dad, they said it usually takes 2 to 3 weeks for the whole process. We rushed it and got it done in a week. So I would expect it'll be a little bit. All right, let's see. What else? That's all the questions I got today, really. All right, well, I'm going to go back to the main screen. Not a lot of chatting going on. We are at 8:48, which is about time to be done. My final comments are going to be this. Actually, let me ask you a question while I have your attention. Did you like the breakdown? Is Monday doing a breakdown worth it? Like going through what happened on Friday Night Fights and looking at the rolls, worth it? I don't know the right format yet. I don't really know how to go like roll one, we saw this and this, versus breaking player by player down. In this case, it was really obvious they played so differently, but if you like doing that, let's do it. It'd be cooler if I get the players on with me and talk through it, but schedules are hard, you know, and I was doing this late last night and I didn't have enough time to get anybody even an email. So Jen says, don't do the breakdown again. Okay, cool. So that segment sucked. Sorry. I guess you didn't like it. Let's see. Dusted One says, if your approach is to edge your opponent with a subpar strategy, and then at the end get lucky, whatever, right? This goes to the whole thing we've talked. You can't know what's going to happen, right? You're never going to know what the dice are going to happen. In a tournament, what you have to do, right? You cannot shadow bet your person, right? If one guy's on the place bets on the right side, the other guy, you can be place betting too, but Corey tried to do a little bit of hybrid, right? Get some dark, get some light. Craig's hopping, for Corey to hop too would be stupid, right? So Corey's going to try and win other ways. I like the fact that it was opposing forces because otherwise, you know, it's hard in these tournaments to kind of do a counteroffensive, I guess. It's really hard. And again, the person going first has that thing, right? Sure, stick to your strategy. I think if two players played right side and pressed differently or picked different numbers or whatever, it would be interesting. But again, you know, this was interesting too. This was a very compelling match, I thought. I thought it was super compelling. So, again, it was fun for me to deal the match. I had a good time dealing it. And I think it made for good entertainment. I think it's good to break down here too. So, all right, we're out of here, guys. I am at 8:51. My final thoughts again. One more time, apologies for last week's attitude problem that I had. That wasn't an attitude problem, but just getting triggered so much and just having a kind of a south week. All that said, I hope that my lectures on variance and trends were still valuable. Take the dripping sarcasm off of the chats that you read. take the dripping sarcasm off of my words. And I hope that what I said was valuable. I think it is. I think that the notion of trend betting, meaning I see 3 nines and 5 rolls, therefore the 9 is coming. Please don't do that. That's the whole thing is based on that concept of that being foolish in a random game. Okay. If you're controlling dice, if you're doing that, it's a different story. But just the whole rant on those today's was about being careful with what you hear. Remember I said, believe nothing of what you hear, half of what you see. Be careful with what you hear. People who say and type that stuff, they may be lucky and it may be working for them. For the average bear, that's a dangerous thing to think about. Following a trend is very dangerous in gambling, especially when the game is completely random. That was the point of my rants, and I hope that that didn't get lost in all the sniping. Just be careful out there. It's largely a random game. Save for a few people, it's a random game. And there's no trending in random. And I want you to be careful when you're looking at what's happening. Just be careful when you're looking and evaluating what's going on around. That's the whole point of this thing, is to be careful, to save your precious money, and bet always on the things that you think are going to win. Okay? And there it is. Be good. I'll use everybody's tagline. Be good, be safe. Chips in the rack don't come back. And God bless you. I'll see you in the next one about 10 minutes from now. Bye, all. Have a good Monday. Bye. Oh, didn't end right. There we go.